Politic. Авторская программа Кирилла Задова, посвященная текущим мировым проблемам. Politic. Предвзятый обзор, субъективные комментарии и искренние оценки Кирилла Задова. С понедельника по четверг с 4 до 5. Politic. Сказал, как обрезал.
Приветствую, друзья, с вами Кирилл Задов, это Politic. Сегодня 28 марта, правильно ведь, да? 28 марта, четверг, да, последний рабочий день на этой неделе. И сегодня у нас в гостях будет Nickolas Chamberas, республиканский политический strategist. Мы будем говорить о разных всяческих важных, серьезных моментах, связанных с президентом Трампом, естественно, с его судебными кейсами. Много вопросов интересных есть. Главный вопрос, как это может помешать ему избраться. В общем, я надеюсь, что будет увлекательно. Но это вот буквально через несколько минут. Николас уже в студии. Мы очень скоро начнем.
Politic. Сказал, как обрезал.
Nicholas, welcome on board.
Thank you, Kirill.
Pleasure to have you here. Reminding you guys, Nickolas Chamberas, political strategist, with us today.
Thank you. As
Thank you
I
very
mentioned,
much
it's always a pleasure to be on here with you.
Thank you
Such
very
a great
much.
show.
Appreciate your coming on such a short notice. We're gonna focus in this segment probably on all cases against our president Donald Trump and our former president, we hope, and 47th, yeah, as he said, as he mentioned, playing golf once. Oh, 45th, and 47th, he said. Listen, that's altogether 5 cases, right?
5 cases.
First thing I want to ask you, even because I'm mentioning this all the time, but I want to hear it from you. Even if he is going to be fined, if they find him guilty and put him into prison, even if this case, he still can run.
Yes.
And if elected, can be president and pardon himself, basically, right?
There'll be some dissenting views on that, but yes, basically, the short answer, without us being here too long, is yes.
Yeah. So let us come to. I still cannot understand how it's gonna be. They couldn't even fingerprint him proper because they gotta when they do arrangement first. I remember first case when they're doing this, they gotta put Secret Service with him. Then, if they wanna arrest him formally, they gotta put with Secret Service that's supposed to be as a security detail. They gotta put them in a cell, all of them. Then, because he cannot. So even if they find him guilty, how they going to proceed with detention? I don't understand. How that? It's such a shame for the nation.
That's a very interesting question, and I think they want us to basically start pondering all these absurd because they're unnecessary scenarios. I don't think President Trump will serve a day in prison involving any of these cases. Obviously, he can't for the civil trial, but I do not picture him being incarcerated for any of these trumped up charges, no pun intended. I mean, connived. I could go on and on, but yeah.
Okay. So it's a political campaign that's going to hurt them more, I think, than Donald Trump. They're going to make a case for Donald Trump, basically, and they didn't learn the lesson from 2016. The more they press with this, it's like, I don't know how to compare it. I mean, the more you hit, like Jews in Egypt before Exodus, the more Pharaoh and the king of Egypt was pressing them, the more they were multiplying. So that's the same case. Like, the more they press, the more they think they harm him. It's the opposite effect. More independent voters will think, listen, it's not for nothing that they want them out so badly, so we should vote for him. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
But that remains to be seen. Now we have like 5 cases, you're saying, right?
5 cases.
We have to go all like in at least a summary of all of them for our audience, because not everyone is familiar with them.
We'll go over them, and it's true. How could you be? Americans, people have busy lives, especially with work and the stress of today's society. But the more you look into these cases, politically, the better it is for Trump, because I'm sure there are many hardcore Democrats who detest President Trump's political views and may or may not like him as a person, but just because someone is from a different party, they have different ideas, and you don't like them, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to support a persecution. And I cannot emphasize enough, looking into these cases in even some detail. You don't not need to peruse them carefully and find out everything, but you look at the facts of most of these cases, and really the only question left is which one is more absurd. Because, you'll start debating, like, is this the dumbest case they came up with? Is this the dumbest case they came up with? And yeah, clearly they thought that, because look, let's face it, even 10 years ago, right? When we would hear that somebody's indicted by our government, it would be send shockwaves throughout the country and the world, right? Somebody's,
No, now we have a Menendez case.
Right. But now, once you look at these cases, and you're just like, even if you're a liberal Democrat, even if you think Bill Clinton is too conservative, you look at the merits of these cases, and you see the struggles in our country, you see the pressing issues, regardless of how you want to solve these issues, right? And you can't help it. I'm obviously not among those people. I support the president. But even if you're from the other party, this is a matter of fairness and justice. And I'm sure a lot of them just are saying, why are they doing this? How is this helping the country? They're ripping us apart to prosecute a petty blood feud because a man won the presidency. And, we can go one by one if you have any other questions. But, earlier this week on Sunday, you could see they were celebrating a man basically having to lose everything he and his family have worked for decades. Not only that, they paid countless millions to the tax base, contributed to the economy, and contribute to the economy by employing thousands of people. They took risks, they worked hard, and essentially, as of Sunday night, early Monday morning, President Trump stood to lose it all because banks. This is it. You can claim whatever you want, but the real facts of the civil fraud case are this: Trump and his business team applied for loans from banks. His CPAs prepared those statements for President Trump. Banks, very sophisticated banks, had their teams evaluate these loans and evaluate these claims.
I mean, they gotta put certain numbers behind assets. They gotta say, listen, collateral is gonna be that hotel, and that hotel, in our estimation, cost like $200 million. And bank said, yes, according to our estimation, it also cost $200 million. And then came Letitia James, Attorney General of New York, and they said, listen, that number, $200 million, is inflated. It's not real number, and that's a fraud.
Right.
Simply,
exactly.
in simple terms.
So, but let's look at it systematically. We're talking about the free market, private business, who have the top experts evaluating these loan applications. Therefore, Trump's business people, also very sophisticated actors, prepared these applications. These banks evaluated the loans. Now, if you're going to talk about fraud, after all of these transactions, after decades of these transactions,
and actually paid big dividends to banks. They got all what they wanted to.
Look, let's say there was one.
It's a perfect business transaction. Now, tell me this: how come then on a first circle of proceedings and in a court he lost? Then how that could happen?
I'd really like to know too, because look, didn't he? Again, I'm frustrated by some of the fact patterns in this case. I think he lost from start to finish because this was a political witch hunt with a preordained outcome. There's no basis. This case has no basis.
Hold on. But judge, it's a one judge case.
One judge, yes.
Why, if that judge it was known that he is not impartial? That's what you're implying right now. The judge was not impartial. If that's the case, why Team Trump, legal team, didn't took him out in the case from the case. Why didn't they file a motion to remove the judge and put different judge?
They did protest against this judge, and there are limits to the recourse you have in court when you get a judge you don't like. I think Trump's lawyers realized early on they were not going to get a fair opportunity from this judge, and that's an issue that will be raised on appeal more than likely. However, my question for this judge is, does he have any business training or basic economics 101? He seems to be wholly unfamiliar with commerce, business transactions. Some of the valuations he put on the Trump properties are laughable, and particularly the Mar-a-Lago property. So right then and there, when the judge forms his decision based on his belief that Mar-a-Lago is worth maybe $20 million at most, and if Mar-a-Lago went up for sale for $40 million tomorrow, I think there would be scuffles over who could buy. Again, I'm lost. I'm reluctant to get into the absurd.
So basically, what you're saying is that in appeal, Trump team should prevail. Easy.
I don't know about easy, but the statute under which this case was brought was, I think it's from 1956. This was never meant to go after sophisticated entrepreneurs. This was supposed to protect unsophisticated investors, unsophisticated business people from being duped and defrauded. There's no fraud here. These banks made hefty dividends, as you said. They made tremendous profits. Not one loan was defaulted on. I don't think there were any delinquencies in any of these loans. So, essentially, is Judge Engoron saying that basically...
that business practice is not legal, what the judge is saying. That the business itself is not legal, because that's a basic of the business. You come to the bank with your assessment, if bank agreed, and that's voluntarily. It's not somebody forcing bank to accept any terms. So banks, experts, come and see your property evaluation, say, listen, we're okay with that. Because bank, they got to assess risk. And risk assessment involves that if you're delinquent or if you're bankrupt, and we're going to get that, we're not real estate dealers, we are bankers. So we got to at least put the number that at least we're going to get. So if they say it's $200 million, and they say it's fine, it is $200 million, then it's $200 million. What kind of a criminal investigation can be put in there? What kind of fraud can be put in there? So
again, the judge may have ruled against Trump in this case, but the elements of fraud were not proven here.
It cannot be proven.
No.
Because it's a mutual thing. I'm coming for the loan. Bank says, yes, I agree. It's like you come into... to put you need money, you put a collateral. If somebody who gives you money, your lender, he is agreeing to assessment of your collateral, that's it. Then done deal.
And I think you also see the far-reaching actions of the judge. He barred Trump's children from having a role in the businesses. He put on a lot of restrictions from the Trump family from engaging in business.
It's a hunt.
And these were tossed by the appeals court, by the way, on Monday. And just the fact alone that temporarily the $454 million fine was halted, and President Trump only needs to come up with 106, which is still just ridiculous.
A lot of money. It's ridiculous. So I understand that. Let us switch for now to different other cases, because there's a lot of them. It's four more. So let's talk Stormy Daniels. An election fund that was allegedly used for cash payment.
This might be, as I mentioned, one case seems more absurd than the other. This might be the number one contender. So we have a case here where the statute of limitations, by the way, has already run out. The statute of limitations in this case is 5 years.
When all that thing happened, 2016?
Yes. So they indicted him in 2023, last year.
That's already after.
After, absolutely. So
why it's still on an agenda?
Because
the judge should know this, right?
I think. Look, this case, just like the rest of them, but maybe this is the most egregious case. This is a Trump witch hunt, and I think it's also meant to hurt him politically because there are elements of infidelity, alleged infidelity involved. And I think that they thought that this would hurt Trump. But again, the overreach is so severe here that it wound up helping him. Because this was just about a non-disclosure agreement. You can call it hush money. You can call it whatever you want. This was a private...
But the fact that there was undisclosure agreement doesn't prove anything. He just could make that deal with the person, with the intermediary of anybody, just not to have that investigated, just not to have that conversation in public about that. May not happen anything. Nothing could happen. And he just didn't want that conversation to appear. So it's better to pay her not to even to bring it brought into focus.
Exactly.
Right.
The interest gets even more interesting. 2 previous prosecutors, one of them was actually Alvin Bragg, looked into this and decided not to prosecute. The Justice Department looked into this case and said there's no reason to prosecute. We can't move forward here.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, but there's so many best parts to this case. As it stands, this case would be a misdemeanor, but there has to be another element to this that Bragg even refuses to this day to disclose. So in order for this to go to trial, they have to talk that this was in the furtherance of another felony or criminal conspiracy. They haven't disclosed what that is yet. Again, it's a Manhattan jury. Anything can happen, right? Especially in Manhattan.
But in the process of selection of jurors, Trump team has a voice, right?
Yes, but if you've ever sat in on Manhattan juries, let me not say anything before I get in trouble. It's going to be
certain people with certain background, usually, right? What you're trying to say?
Finding impartial jurors in a case involving President Trump in Manhattan is like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
But it's strange because President Trump done a lot of good things to the city.
Look, I think, believe it or not, I think if you had the case in the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, obviously Staten Island, you can definitely find a fair Trump jury. But I think even in the Bronx, even in Queens, even in Brooklyn, I think Manhattan, though, there's just basically 9 to 12 Democrats for every Republican in that borough. And the bias...
Should not affect, by the way.
It should not, but it probably will.
It will, right.
It probably will.
Okay, we'll see that. But, okay, now Georgia case.
Yes. By the way, just for your list, we're not going to talk about the E. Jean Carroll. The other alleged harassment.
No.
Yeah, that if you believe that,
that's
not going to change your mind.
Not even interesting. Georgia case, because for me, it's the most severe. Because if they can prove that Trump people were trying to overturn the election results, as Secretary of Georgia, State of Georgia was saying that he got phone calls from administration, people say like, turn it over, it's not true, those results are not right. If that's the case, it can be proven in Georgia, and it's going to be a big thing. It's going to be probably on national television, like it's going to bring back O.J. Simpson time. Besides the PR benefit that Trump team can get from it, what is the merit of the case?
They're using RICO, the Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, that targeted the 5 families. It's obviously
5 families of New York.
Yes,
right.
The mafia and numerous organized crime leaders and associates and members. This indictment was announced before the grand jury even announced it, oddly enough. Another prefixed, predetermined outcome. I want to make one point. This might be abstract, but I think your listeners will benefit from it to ponder. If this was really a serious case, if you really felt that President Trump is such a threat to democracy, he tried to subvert democracy, and he tried to overturn the results of the election, democracy is at stake, so to speak, right? Fani Willis would not have hired I don't know if he was her boyfriend or not. I think we have a clear indication of whether he was. But she hired someone who had no experience in cases like this to take the lead.
Nobody has experience with cases like that in the United States since probably the time of Civil War.
Well, great point that this is an unprecedented case, but in terms of this particular type of prosecution, her now boyfriend did not have much experience, if any, leading a case like this. So, if this was really so important, they would have put a more seasoned, more experienced prosecutor at the helm of the case. That's certainly my opinion. But when you want to prosecute the former president under RICO, you better have a puppet leading the investigation, because I don't think there are a lot of lawyers, a lot of prosecutors who'd want to put their name to this. There's so many silly elements when you think about it. The president has a First Amendment right to express his opinion.
Opinion is not a problem. The phone call to Secretary of State is a problem.
We all heard the phone call to the Secretary of State. And again, the president knows that on any given call, there's 15 people listening. So let's talk about Georgia and the way that case was administrated. By the way, we found out since that countless ballots that should have never been counted were indeed tabulated. Now, let's imagine a scenario. Because Georgia's a special
I'm sorry,
case.
but for the record, those numbers of those ballots could not overturn the result anyway.
Regardless.
Right.
But let me ask you a question. You're you're observing an election in a developing country, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're an observer.
Mm-hmm.
You go to where the ballots are counted. They won't let you get near where they're counting the ballots. They have shields, they have screens. If you get past a certain point, the police ask you to step back. Now, while one candidate A, is leading in the state by 100,000 votes, so to speak. Again, this is a hypothetical situation, folks. Mm-hmm. This is a hypothetical situation. Mm-hmm. I'm asking you to compare. Mm-hmm. So, you're there. You're part of a team to observe the election, the integrity of the election. They're making concerted efforts to make sure that you can't get near the vote counters. Mm-hmm. Then, all of a sudden, there are reports of a pipe having burst, mm-hmm. and the integrity of the structure mm-hmm. being in danger. Mm-hmm. They try to get everybody to leave. Not everybody leaves, right? It turns out there was absolutely no leak. The pipe being burst was a made-up story. Now, whoever is left there to observe the vote counting is forcibly removed from the premises. After all the independent vote counters leave, the people tabulating the votes unearthed camouflaged suitcases, concealed huge trunks and suitcases of paper ballots. There is no one there to observe them.
Can that be proven in the court?
Hold on a second.
No, that's the most important question.
Let me finish. Mm-hmm. So, they take these ballots, and all of a sudden, the candidate A, who had a seemingly insurmountable lead, loses after those ballots or has his lead significantly reduced. Now, you asked me, the reason I asked you to let me finish the formulation, because this hypothetical mirrors what happened in Fulton County. And this is not my account.
Was it proven in the court?
It's on camera.
Was it proven in the court?
But it's on camera. There was no need to prove it in court.
Just camera is nothing. Was it shown in there was a case like that?
There's a video.
Again, no video can be admissible now.
But let me ask you a question.
Why didn't they put it in the court?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it gotta be presented in the court as an evidence. Why wasn't it?
There was no trial yet, and
why there was no trial?
I don't think the governor of Georgia or his secretary Brian.
It's not up to governor of Georgia.
Actually, a lot of election administration is a statewide issue.
The courts are not under jurisdiction of governor.
No,
it's independent judicial power in the United States. So again, I'm asking you, where the court case? Why wasn't it brought into court?
So hypothetically speaking, all of those ballots could have been, not even hypothetically.
Let's go back to the case. That's the most important thing. So, in this case, what do you think the best line of defense for president?
We're talking about the conversation he had with Rassenberger, the Georgia Secretary of State.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. If you see this on video, if you see,
I don't care. Again,
you may not care.
Video. It's not. It's a case not about the video. Why there was no case about the video? Now it's a case of forcing the Secretary of State of Georgia to turn results, to make it different.
So the president never said anything about overturning the results illegally. He said about investigations and finding fraudulent votes. Now I ask you again, how can anybody who sees those election workers taking out endless stacks of ballots locked inside suitcases that were hidden, unavailable to the public for monitoring, how would anybody not think that's suspicious? Is that a coincidence?
Suspicious, but it can be that was a mail delivery of remote voters.
It could be, but do you normally camouflage the mail delivery?
I don't know.
I mean,
I never been into election proceedings in America behind the scenes. I was voting, but I don't know how the thing works.
I have actually been in multiple countries observing elections, and I can tell you that this is not exactly a common practice. And I'd be interested to know, I want to know, if any other states, and that might help explain a lot of things, in how many other states are you hiding ballots and coincidentally counting them once the observers have left? Now, I'm not alleging anything specifically that the election was stolen or whatever. That's really not for me to decide. But if I'm looking at this, do I not have a right to question the outcome? Do I not have a right to express my concern?
You can.
That's a First Amendment, and so can the president.
Right. Yeah, but the question is
and he should not be prosecuted for it.
The question is attempt to overturn the results.
So it's not, but the results hadn't been certified yet. So I don't know how he would have overturned the results.
That's a good point, but right.
You know,
so
we're not talking about
a lot of details that should be open during the proceedings, during the case. We're going to see them.
Yeah.
So maybe that video going to reappear.
So again, talking about how you can prosecute someone under a statute that's reserved for hardcore criminal gangsters because they asked questions about the election is ridiculous. We all have a right to ask questions. We all have a right to look into it, and the president can certainly contact any election official, Democrat or Republican, and see what's going on and to ask what's going on. It's asking questions. It's patriotic. It's not insurrectionist.
We have to interrupt ourselves for commercial break. We'll come back. We'll continue. Don't go anywhere.
Бутик-политик. Сказал, как обрезал.
Nickolas, welcome back.
Oh, wow, that was fast.
Yeah, I just remind our audience, Nickolas Chamberas, political strategist with us tonight. Other cases, two other cases that we didn't mention. Short.
Yes. So let's quickly go over the classified documents. That's another.
Oh, that's nothing to talk about at all. I forgot about classified documents.
There's one quote, and look, I'm not trying to depict or represent any opinion of the American Bar Association, but I want to point out something that the American Bar Association stated about Trump and President Trump in the classified documents case, and I'd like to quote verbatim. So bear with me for just a moment here. So according to the, and this is online if you'd like to fact check me, according to the American Bar Association, in theory, legal guidelines support Trump's contention that a president has broad authority to formally declassify most documents that are not statutorily protected.
But he didn't declassify them. Why didn't he declassify them?
So a president can declassify anything at any time.
He can, but not when he's not already president. So why didn't he declassify them? That's a question. That's a case.
I think if we would have to look at document by document, and if every single the president can declassify something instantaneously. So we don't know the fact that the president may not know something is declassified or may not know exactly what they're looking at. We have literally hundreds of thousands of documents. It is silly to expect the president of the United States to know about every single document in his or her possession. And what's at Mar-a-Lago, what remained at the White House. We have our current president had things in his car, had things in a presidential library controlled by a foreign, financed by a foreign country, had documents in a garage.
Yeah, but with that, Councillor Hoare said that he's an old man with deteriorating cognitive abilities, right?
I think if the president is an old man with deteriorating cognitive abilities to the point of where they can't stand trial, let's use the 25th Amendment.
It's not about stand trial. It's about that it's not criminal intent even. It might be negligence, but that negligence came from deteriorating cognitive abilities, so there is no case. That's what he said. It's very good that he said that. He brought all other discussion that into picture. Finally,
essentially what Biden did, if you look at the facts of the case, and I want to focus more on the other case. If you look at the facts of the case, what Biden did is far more egregious than what they're alleging what President Biden did is far more egregious than what they're alleging President Trump did. There's an instance where President Biden is allegedly reading memos to his ghostwriter. So, again, a president can declassify documents at any time. It's within their purview.
Right.
So this is another witch hunt, another fishing expedition. That is a waste of waste of the taxpayers' time.
And the fifth case.
Oh yeah. The another doozy by Jack Smith. So basically, this is one of the cases. I also think that there'll be parallels to the Georgia case, where the president's First Amendment rights are being questioned, and his ability to act as president of the United States, presidential immunity, which the Supreme Court will hear oral arguments about on April 22nd. So we have a right to freedom of speech in this country.
Right.
And again, for Jack Smith to prevail, he would have to prove
What's the case?
That's the federal indictment for insurrection.
Oh, there was no insurrection. From Trump?
Yes.
No, he didn't say anything.
No. According to this indictment, he tried to overthrow the government. Because he questioned the outcome. So, but in this case, not only would the president,
that has no merit.
The president not be permitted to question the outcome, he would have to know directly and clearly that he had lost the election, and intentionally question the outcome.
No, that's not possible to prove.
Well, that's why I mentioned. That's why I mentioned the Georgia.
This is ridiculous.
The Georgia case.
Georgia case is a different thing. You think they can be connected? That's another story. We're gonna see. It's interesting, but that insurrection charge is a ridiculous thing. You got to prove intent, which is not possible.
Right. So again, these cases, one is flimsier than the other. It's a horrific travesty and miscarriage of justice, and we're embarrassing ourselves in front of the world. You want to dislike President Trump, you want to loathe him, beat him at the ballot box fair and square. Don't try to ruin his personal life, destroy his family, destroy his businesses, because he has an opposing viewpoint.
They have no shame.
No shame.
Now, we have to conclude that part of conversation and switch to, otherwise we won't have time for the important thing that we want to say. You were mentioning there is a police officer that you want to talk about.
Yes. So today is the first day of the wake of police officer Jonathan Diller from Massapequa. He was serving in Queens, I think out of the 105th precinct, the same precinct where the late Detective Brian Moore died, protecting us as well. And I just, this isn't the first time that a police officer has died in line of duty.
Unfortunately.
But this really just hits hard, because on that day, another person was murdered on the subway, thrown into the subway tracks. Yesterday, someone else was thrown into the subway tracks. They were fighting for their lives. And we're looking at a war on police officers. And you hear all of these politicians send their thoughts and prayers. And by the way, let's really keep Officer Diller's family in our thoughts and prayers. If you believe, if you're a spiritual person, please pray for Officer Diller's soul and for his family to have the strength to move to exist with such a horrible event. I think it's so easy to just read the paper and forget about it and say, oh, you know, this is someone's son. Parents lost a son. This is someone's husband. A 1-year-old baby will have to live without their father for this. And we have 30 seconds?
Yeah, but that's it.
Okay, so look, the state legislature bears a lot of responsibility. The governor bears a lot of responsibility for bail reform. The New York City Council has declared war on police officers with the diaphragm law. We're the only city, the only big city in the country, to my knowledge, that has removed qualified immunity from our police officers.
Oh, that's crazy.
Which is a slap in the face. The monumental documentation requirements. Can I mention so rest in peace, police officer Jonathan Diller. Again, let's pray for him and his family. I do want to mention one last event.
Thank you very much, Nickolas. We have to do it next time.
All right.
Nickolas Chamberas, thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you very soon, I hope.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Бутик Политик. Сказал, как обрезал.